Ngo Quyen and the Ngo Dynasty in Vietnamese history. In the 10th century, Vietnam faced pivotal moments that would define its identity as a nation. A period of resilience, courage, and the fight for sovereignty began with a legendary figure, Ngo Quyen. Today, we explore the story of Ngo Quyen and the Ngo Dynasty, whose influence on Vietnam's history remains profound and enduring. To understand Ngo Quyen, we must first understand the era in which he lived. The land we now know as Vietnam was under the domination of Chinese dynasties for over a millennium. Yet, the desire for independence never wavered. We will journey through the history of Chinese rule, highlighting the cultural integration and resistance of the Vietnamese people. Setting the stage for Ngo Quyen's emergence. To understand Ngo Quyen, we must first delve into the context of the era in which he lived, a time when Vietnam was enduring profound challenges and transformations. For over 1,000 years, the land we now know as Vietnam was under the domination of various Chinese dynasties, beginning with the Han Dynasty in 111 BCE. This period of domination saw multiple waves of cultural influence and political control, which left a lasting imprint on Vietnamese society, language, and administrative systems. The Chinese sought not only to govern but to assimilate the local population, establishing Confucian values, bureaucracy, and social structures that would deeply influence the region. Yet, throughout this long period of domination, the desire for independence among the Vietnamese people never wavered. Despite the imposition of foreign culture, the Vietnamese retained their own identity, traditions, and aspirations. Numerous revolts erupted over the centuries, spearheaded by figures such as the Trung sisters in 40 CE and Lady True in 248 CE, who became symbols of resistance and national pride. These early uprisings, though ultimately suppressed, reflected the indomitable spirit of the Vietnamese and their yearning for self-determination. During this era, Vietnam was not merely a passive subject of foreign rule, it was a dynamic and resilient society that absorbed elements of Chinese culture while also maintaining distinct local customs. This cultural integration was both complex and multifaceted, leading to a blending of ideas that would shape the character of the Vietnamese people. The Confucian administrative model and Chinese innovations were adopted, but the core of Vietnamese identity, its language, communal organization, and spiritual practices, remained intact and continued to thrive beneath the surface. The culmination of centuries of resistance and cultural resilience set the stage for the emergence of Ngo Quyen. By the early 10th century, China was undergoing internal turmoil, which weakened its grip on its far-flung territories. This provided a crucial opportunity for local leaders in Vietnam to challenge the remaining vestiges of foreign control. Ngo Quyen, born into this climate of unrest and resistance, rose as a leader capable of uniting the fragmented Vietnamese territories and leading them to independence. His leadership, shaped by the legacy of past struggles and the unyielding spirit of his people, was poised to change the course of Vietnamese history forever. Ngo Quyen was born in 897 in Duong Lam, a village that would become famous for giving rise to one of Vietnam's most celebrated national heroes. His birth took place during a period marked by instability and fragmentation. After centuries of Chinese rule, the weakening of the Tang dynasty's authority led to a power vacuum in the region, which in turn gave rise to a multitude of regional warlords who sought to expand their influence. Vietnam, at that time, was fractured, with local leaders governing their territories independently while still dealing with the lingering threat of Chinese intervention. Ngo Quyen grew up in an era of both turmoil and hope. The Vietnamese people's resentment towards Chinese domination had been growing, fueled by generations of forced cultural assimilation and the oppression that accompanied foreign rule. There was also an emerging wave of nationalism, a desire for self-governance, and a yearning for freedom that ran deeply through the people. This sentiment would serve as the foundation for Ngo Quyen's own ambitions. Ngo Quyen's rise to power began under the leadership of Ngo Dynasty, a prominent warlord who was also a symbol of Vietnamese resistance against foreign control. Ngo Dynasty had previously served as a trusted military commander under Cuc Thoadu, who led one of the first successful attempts to assert autonomy over Vietnamese territory. Ngo Dynasty continued this mission and was dedicated to the dream of a free and united Vietnam. Recognizing the potential in Ngo Quyen, he took him under his wing, training him not only as a warrior but also as a future leader. Their relationship was further solidified when Ngo Quyen married Ngo Dynasty's daughter, making their alliance both political and personal. Together, Ngo Dynasty and Ngo Quyen envisioned a Vietnam free from foreign domination. Ngo Dynasty's mentorship provided Ngo Quyen with the skills, the vision, and the determination to become a unifying force. When Ngo Dynasty was assassinated by a rival warlord, Ngo Quyen, Ngo Quyen's mission became clear: to not only avenge his mentor's death, but also to fulfill their shared dream of independence. This marked the beginning of Ngo Quyen's campaign, which would culminate in one of the most significant victories in Vietnamese history, laying the foundation for a free and sovereign nation. In 938, Ngo Quyen faced the monumental challenge that would etch his name into history, the Battle of the Bac Dang River. This battle was a defining moment, one that tested not only Ngo Quyen's strength, but also the determination of the Vietnamese people to resist foreign domination. The Chinese Southern Han Dynasty, recognizing the instability in Vietnam after the assassination of Ngo Dynasty, sought to take advantage of the situation and reassert its control over the region. To achieve this, they sent a formidable naval force to invade, determined to bring Vietnam back under their rule. Ngo Quyen, however, was not willing to let history repeat itself. Understanding the importance of strategy and the tactical advantage that geography could offer, he devised a bold and ingenious plan to counter the Southern Han's invasion. The Bac Dang River, with its winding curves and tidal shifts, became the perfect site for his ambush. Ngo Quyen's strategy was to use the river itself as a weapon, a strategy that required precision, timing, and deep knowledge of the environment. Ngo Quyen ordered his forces to embed large, sharpened wooden stakes deep into the riverbed at key points where the Southern Han Navy was likely to pass. These stakes were positioned in such a way that they remained hidden beneath the water during high tide, making them invisible to the advancing fleet. Ngo Quyen waited patiently, and when the Southern Han fleet sailed up the Bac Dang River, he launched his trap. As the tide began to recede, Ngo Quyen's forces lured the Chinese ships further into the river. When the water level dropped, the stakes, previously submerged, suddenly emerged, trapping the enemy vessels. The pointed stakes impaled the hulls of the Chinese ships, leaving them immobilized and vulnerable. At this moment, Ngo Quyen's troops launched a full-scale attack from both sides of the river, overwhelming the enemy forces. The Chinese fleet, caught completely off guard, suffered catastrophic losses as their ships were shattered and their soldiers drowned or were captured. The Battle of the Bac Dang River was not only a brilliant military victory but also a symbol of Vietnamese ingenuity and resilience. Ngo Quyen's clever use of the natural landscape turned the tide, literally and figuratively, against the invading force. The Southern Han were decisively defeated, and Vietnam's sovereignty was secured. This victory effectively ended more than a millennium of Chinese domination and established Vietnam as an independent nation. Ngo Quyen's leadership and tactical brilliance at Bac Dang became a cornerstone of Vietnamese pride. An enduring reminder of the power of unity, strategy, and the determination to be free, the victory on the Bac Dang River was far more than just a military triumph. It was a defining moment that marked the beginning of a new era for Vietnam, the dawn of true independence. After over 1,000 years of Chinese domination, the Vietnamese people had finally succeeded in breaking free from foreign control, and this victory symbolized the culmination of centuries of resistance, resilience, and the unyielding desire for sovereignty. Ngo Quyen's success on the Bac Dang River was a testament to the Vietnamese spirit. It wasn't just about defeating a formidable enemy, it was about reclaiming the right to self-determination. For the first time in centuries, the people of Vietnam could envision their future without the burden of foreign rulers. They had thrown off the chains of oppression, and this victory became the foundation for the emergence of a distinct Vietnamese identity, one that would continue to grow and evolve over the coming centuries. Ngo Quyen's leadership not only won the battle, but also laid the groundwork for establishing a unified state. By declaring himself king and founding the Ngo Dynasty, he took the first steps towards creating an independent governance structure for Vietnam. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where the people could shape their destiny free from external interference. The triumph at Bac Dang inspired a sense of national pride and unity, proving that the Vietnamese could stand on their own and successfully defend their homeland against any threat. This pivotal victory also served as a powerful message to future generations that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage, strategic ingenuity, and the will of the people could prevail. It became an enduring symbol of Vietnamese resistance against foreign domination, setting a precedent for future leaders who would also rise to defend the nation. Ngo Quyen's triumph at the Bac Dang River wasn't just the start of his reign, it was the birth of a sovereign Vietnam, forever changing the course of the nation's history. With the Southern Han decisively defeated, Ngo Quyen emerged not only as a victorious military leader but also as the founder of a new era for Vietnam. He declared himself king in 939, establishing the Ngo Dynasty, the first truly independent Vietnamese dynasty after more than a millennium of Chinese control. This was a monumental moment in Vietnamese history, as it marked the official beginning of self-rule and the consolidation of Vietnamese identity. By taking the throne, Ngo Quyen sought to build a stable foundation for the newly liberated nation, creating a government that would maintain independence and foster unity among the people. Ngo Quyen chose Co Loa as the capital of his new kingdom, a decision deeply rooted in the historical and cultural significance of the site. Co Loa, an ancient city, had once been the seat of King Ndung Vong, who ruled the Olak kingdom in the 3rd century BCE. The city held symbolic value as a reminder of a time when the Vietnamese had governed their own land long before the period of Chinese domination. By moving the capital to Co Loa, Ngo Quyen sought to reconnect with this legacy of sovereignty and evoke the spirit of a once independent state. It was a statement to the people that the nation was returning to its roots, reclaiming its heritage and rightful place as a self-governing entity. Co Loa, with its ancient ramparts and fortifications, was an ideal location from both a strategic and cultural standpoint. It symbolized resilience and continuity, and its defensive structures made it a suitable choice for the capital of a young and vulnerable state. Ngo Quyen's decision to establish his rule there was an attempt to create a sense of stability and legitimacy for his new dynasty. He worked to strengthen central authority, consolidate his power over the various regions, and ensure that the country remained unified in the face of potential threats from both internal rivals and external forces. The establishment of the Ngo Dynasty marked the beginning of a new period in Vietnamese history, one characterized by efforts to build a cohesive state, secure borders, and develop a distinct national identity. Though Ngo Quyen's reign was relatively short, lasting only until 944, it was profoundly significant. It represented the first steps toward building an enduring Vietnamese monarchy, and it laid the foundation for future dynasties to expand upon. By uniting the country under his rule and establishing an independent capital, Ngo Quyen set in motion the process of nation-building that would continue to shape Vietnam for centuries to come. His achievements forged the path toward a future in which the Vietnamese people could envision their own destiny, free from foreign domination. Ngo Quyen's reign, though brief, lasting from 939 to 944, was a pivotal period in Vietnamese history. After securing independence with his victory at the Bac Dang River, Ngo Quyen's focus shifted to solidifying his power and uniting the country under a centralized authority. This was no small task. The country had been fragmented for years, with numerous regional warlords wielding power over their respective territories. Ngo Quyen understood that for Vietnam to truly thrive as an independent nation, it needed a unified government and a stable foundation on which future generations could build. Ngo Quyen worked tirelessly to bring together the various warlords, many of whom had been accustomed to wielding their own authority for years. He sought to establish his legitimacy not just as a victorious military leader, but as a ruler capable of governing effectively and creating a sense of national unity. To do this, he worked to strengthen central authority and curtail the power of local warlords, striving to bring the various regions under the control of a centralized government. This required both diplomacy and the occasional use of force, but it was essential for the stability of the newly independent state. During his reign, Ngo Quyen also focused on establishing the administrative structures necessary for effective governance. He began laying the foundations of a bureaucratic system that would allow the central government to maintain control over the provinces, a system that future dynasties would expand and refine. His efforts to build a cohesive state marked the first real attempt at creating a unified Vietnamese monarchy, which would serve as the model for successive rulers. Although Ngo Quyen's reign lasted only 5 years, his impact on the future of Vietnam was significant. By establishing the foundation for centralized rule, he made it possible for future dynasties to build a strong, stable state. His efforts to unify the country and create an effective system of governance allowed Vietnam to withstand future challenges and continue on the path to becoming a resilient and independent nation. Ngo Quyen's vision of a unified, sovereign Vietnam inspired generations to come, and his reign is remembered as the beginning of a new chapter in the history of the Vietnamese people, one defined by independence, unity, and a determination to control their own destiny. After Ngo Quyen's death in 944, Vietnam entered a period of renewed challenges and turbulence. Without the unifying presence of a strong leader, the power struggles between regional warlords re-emerged, plunging the country into instability. The centralized authority that Ngo Quyen had worked hard to establish began to unravel as ambitious figures sought to seize power for themselves. The fragile unity that had held the country together during his reign quickly gave way to fragmentation. The Ngo Dynasty, lacking a clear and capable successor, was weakened as family members and other influential figures vied for control. Ngo Quyen's young son, Ngo Xuong Gap, initially inherited the throne, but his position was far from secure. He faced challenges not only from rival warlords, but also from within his own family. Amidst this power vacuum, Dien Tam Ca, Ngo Quyen's brother-in-law, seized the opportunity to take the throne, effectively sidelining Ngo Xuong Gap and plunging the country into a struggle for dominance. The ensuing years were marked by a chaotic power dynamic, as multiple claimants to leadership emerged, each seeking to consolidate their influence. Regional warlords, who had never fully relinquished their power during Ngo Quyen's reign, began to reassert their authority over their respective territories. The country fragmented once more into semi-independent fiefdoms, each ruled by a powerful lord with little allegiance to a central ruler. This lack of cohesion left Vietnam vulnerable to both internal and external threats, and the dream of a unified and stable nation seemed to be slipping away. Despite the instability, the spirit of independence that Ngo Quyen had ignited continued to burn among the Vietnamese people. Though the Ngo Dynasty struggled to maintain power, the idea of self-rule had taken root, and future leaders would draw inspiration from Ngo Quyen's legacy. This period of fragmentation, known as the 12 Warlords period, Lon Thap Ni Su Quan, eventually led to the rise of Dinh Bo Lin, who would reunify the country in the late 10th century and establish the Dinh Dynasty, once again consolidating Vietnam under a strong central authority. Ngo Quyen's achievements, though temporarily overshadowed by the turmoil following his death, laid the foundation for the concept of a sovereign Vietnamese state. The period of fragmentation that followed highlighted the difficulty of uniting a land that had long been subject to foreign domination and internal strife. Yet, it also underscored the resilience of the Vietnamese spirit, a resilience that would eventually lead to reunification and the continuation of the struggle for independence and self-determination. Although the Ngo Dynasty was short-lived, its historical significance cannot be understated. Ngo Quyen's victory at the Battle of Bac Dang in 938 and his establishment of an independent Vietnamese monarchy marked a crucial turning point in the nation's history. For the first time in centuries, the Vietnamese had successfully thrown off the yoke of Chinese domination, laying the groundwork for a future where the country could determine its own fate. Ngo Quyen's achievements went far beyond military success. They provided a foundation for the development of a unified state. By declaring himself king and establishing the first Vietnamese monarchy since the end of Chinese rule, Ngo Quyen asserted not only the sovereignty of Vietnam but also the legitimacy of its governance. He set in motion the idea that Vietnam was capable of self-rule, and that it was a land deserving of its own leaders, culture, and destiny. The symbolic value of this achievement inspired generations to come, even during the turbulent periods that followed his reign. Despite the internal conflicts and fragmentation that followed Ngo Quyen's death, the ideals he championed endured. His efforts to unite Vietnam under a central authority, although ultimately fragile, had planted the seeds of unity that would take root in later years. During the chaotic period of the 12 warlords, the country once again splintered into a patchwork of competing factions. but the memory of Ngo Quyen's success served as a reminder of what could be achieved. It was this very spirit of unity and independence that future leaders, such as Dinh Bo Linh, would build upon. In the latter half of the 10th century, Dinh Bo Linh emerged as a powerful figure capable of reuniting the fractured nation. Drawing inspiration from Ngo Quyen's legacy, Dinh Bo Linh was able to bring together the various warring factions and establish the Dinh Dynasty. He declared himself emperor, solidifying the country's independence and continuing the work that Ngo Quyen had begun. Without the groundwork laid by Ngo Quyen, this reunification might have been far more challenging, if not impossible. Ngo Quyen's legacy lived on as an enduring symbol of Vietnamese resilience and the determination to maintain sovereignty against all odds. His victory over the Southern Han and his establishment of a Vietnamese monarchy paved the way for future leaders to strengthen the nation's independence and create a stable state. Though the Ngo dynasty itself did not last long, its impact was profound, setting the stage for the consolidation of Vietnam as an independent kingdom, laying a crucial foundation for the country's future dynasties, and inspiring the Vietnamese people to hold on to the dream of self-rule. Ngo Quyen's story is not merely a tale of battle and kingship, it is the embodiment of the Vietnamese spirit. His courage, determination, and strategic brilliance united a divided people and secured a nation's independence against overwhelming odds. Ngo Quyen showed that even a small country could overcome a formidable adversary if its people were united by a shared vision and the will to be free. His leadership marked the beginning of a long journey toward the establishment of an enduring and independent Vietnamese state. The victory at the Bac Dang River was more than just a tactical triumph, it was an expression of the indomitable will of the Vietnamese people to shape their own destiny. Ngo Quyen's ability to outsmart a far larger and more powerful force was a defining moment, proving that independence could be achieved through ingenuity, courage, and an unwavering sense of purpose. This victory not only freed the nation from Chinese domination but also inspired countless generations to continue the fight for freedom, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Ngo Quyen's reign, though brief, laid the foundation for the identity of a resilient people. He established the first independent Vietnamese monarchy, symbolizing the beginning of a new era, an era where the Vietnamese could reclaim their history, culture, and sovereignty. His legacy continued to inspire future leaders, from Dinh Bo Linh to the Tran and Le dynasties, who would all draw on his example as they navigated the complexities of maintaining an independent Vietnam. To this day, Ngo Quyen is revered as one of the great founding figures of Vietnamese history, a testament to the unbreakable will of a people longing for freedom. His story is not just a reminder of past struggles, it is a celebration of the courage and tenacity that define the Vietnamese national character. Through his leadership and vision, Ngo Quyen ignited the spirit of independence that has lived on throughout Vietnam's history, inspiring a nation to endure and overcome, no matter the challenges faced. His legacy is a symbol of hope, unity, and the everlasting desire of the Vietnamese people to be the masters of their own destiny.